Ladies and gentlemen, 345 commits later, I have completely rebuilt my SAAS from scratch. And on today's video, I am going to explain why I did it. I'm going to explain what is my new tech stack, what does my new infrastructure looks like, what is my cost breakdown, am I saving money by switching to full stack Elixir? And then on a future video, I'm going to explain how I did it. Spoiler alert, I used Claude Code not via the CLI, but via the desktop app. That's an interesting story. All right, so why did I do this? I have been very open about my journey with Elixir and Inertia. In the beginning, I had my honeymoon phase. It was quite incredible. I recorded a bunch of videos, but then you can see here, 6 months ago, I recorded a video. Do I regret picking Inertia over LiveView for my SAAS? And to summarize this video, yes, I did. I highly recommend you watching this video because I do a full comparison between the two technologies. But the TLDR is, LiveView is simpler. It requires much less layers of code, but also layers of infrastructure. I needed a Node.js worker pool to server render whatever I was querying from Elixir before returning the front end. I needed to maintain 2 ecosystems instead of just one. And Inertia was wonderful 1 year ago when I was still writing the code by hand. I had a lot of fun with it. But as soon as I started transitioning towards agentic coding, and not a single AI agent out there was able to produce good inertia code, I was like, you know what? This is a ticking time bomb. And someday I am going to try building a feature and I am not going to be able to because the agents are going to keep spinning. I will regret this. And to be fully transparent here, some of the problems that I had with Inertia, they were not tied to Inertia, the library, but more so to the Inertia Phoenix port. I think if you are a PHP developer and you're using Inertia, you have more official support to use it. So the AI agents are able to write better code. And not only that, but you have more services and tooling available to you to have a better developer experience. So for example, we have Wayfinder, a way to add end-to-end type safety to Inertia and your backend. We don't have that for Elixir. And for version 1 of CourseShelf, I was manually creating the types of everything. I have a types folder. Every time I created a new resource on the backend, I had to create a new type on the front end. Now, this is not code generated in any way. I'm doing this manually. So long story short, I was not having a good time with Inertia and Phoenix specifically, and I made the decision to switch to full stack Elixir. Now, what does my new tech stack looks like? Pretty much the main difference is on the front end layer, but I also took this opportunity to remove a very expensive part of my infrastructure, and that was managed Postgres by Fly.io, which is where I host my Elixir projects. It is an amazing service. However, I simply do not have the scale necessary to pay $40 a month on a database. If you go to CourseShelf right now, you can see how many accounts there are on the website. I have 89. And according to my plausible analytics, on a very good day where I tweet about CourseShelf and I get a ton of traffic, I get around 130 users on the platform, but on average, it's like 20, 11, 12, 49 on some good days as well. So like definitely not enough scale for me to justify paying a very expensive database. So I switched to unmanaged Postgres. And then because it is unmanaged, that means that I need to do the database backups by myself. And that's why I am also using another service by Fly.io called Tigris CDN. And this is the first time that I'm using this service, but seems like it is S3 compatible. In fact, you use the AWS CLI in order to play around with Tigris. And currently, I'm only using it to store backups. So I am paying pretty much zero on this. And then obviously my tech stack is now LiveView, which is the front-end framework for Elixir. Now, for those who are not familiar with Elixir, I'm going to show you a quick example that I love showing on my videos. And that is how much simpler the front end is. And you pretty much have one layer on your front end. You have one LiveView file where you define your mutations and queries and also your HTML markup. So this is a very simple Elixir module. The only difference is that you have use, then your application name, and LiveView on top. We have this mount function, which is the equivalent of your first render via use effect, for example, in React. And here, the only things that I'm doing is assigning some SEO stuff. Then we have this second super important function called handle params. On this page, I am running this right after the mount function, and check how simple this is. This is the course listing page. This one. I am querying all the courses. I am assigning courses as a variable. Then on the render function, which is responsible for rendering the page, you can access those assigns, those variables via this function parameter right here. Then inside the page, I also have another subcomponent called course card. And contrary to React, where you have uppercase on the first letter, for using another component inside your page, you use the dot syntax. We have this nice synthetic sugar for doing a for loop. And then we are accessing the courses variable. This @ symbol is also another synthetic sugar. This means that I am accessing inside the assigns variable, the courses variable, and that's it. So in summary, I am querying my courses and then assigning a front-end variable for those courses. Now let's contrast that to Inertia. First of all, I need a controller. So that's 2 files instead of 1. Controller and TypeScript file. Okay, so double the amount of complexity. I have an index function, which under the hood is also querying the courses. So this is similar. However, check this out. Hold up. Assign prop courses, course JSON. What the heck is that? This is the third layer of complexity. I have the controller first, and that's ignoring the context functions from Elixir because I need them both for Inertia and LiveView. So I have the controller. I cannot return an Elixir struct to the front end. I need to return a map. So this middle layer of JSON serializers is another module where I grab a course struct and then I am returning a map. And then finally, after serializing my variable, then inside my front end, I can access it. But there are 3 files that I need to navigate through in order to render a page. And that's for a course listing page. Listing stuff is extremely easy. For mutations, that's a whole different beast. So that's the reasoning why LiveView is absolute cinema for me in terms of simplicity. Now let's talk about infrastructure and costs. For version 1, I was using managed Postgres, which costs an average of $38. And that's the first tier, which I think included one database with these specs right here, and then a read replica. For unmanaged, the cost is an average of $7. And I know this is unmanaged. I need to add the costs of the CDN. However, for saving very small database backups, I did the math. It's pretty much free. So I'm not going to add Tigris here. Then for the server, I am actually using the same size for both V1 and V2. However, there's one important difference here. I was using 1 gigabyte of memory and 1 CPU machine, but as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, CourseShelf is a public website. I need good SEO, and the only way for me to have good SEO is to server render. Now, React is not a server-first framework. In order for you to pre-render or server render React, you need some extra tooling. On the Inertia Phoenix library, which is the one I'm using, there is a way of server rendering by having a pool of Node.js workers. By default, you have 4 workers. And I was like, this is perfect. I can server render React. That's all I needed. But it's never that simple. Each Node.js worker was using an average of 150 megabytes of memory, which means that Node.js alone was using 600 megabytes of memory. And the baseline for Elixir, for me, it's usually between 200 megabytes and 300 megabytes of memory. So out of the total 1 gigabyte, I was constantly having out-of-memory issues and crashes on my server. And back then, I didn't know why. And 1.5 years ago, AI wasn't as advanced as right now. So I did not have the necessary infra knowledge to debug this issue. So I had no idea why my server was crashing. I got angry because I was like, bro, I'm using Elixir. This is supposed to be performant. I refuse to accept that my server is crashing because of lack of memory. So I just left it as is. And from time to time, I would get an out-of-memory crash. Now, on the same machine of the same size, now I completely removed the JavaScript layer, and my memory usage is 250 megabytes on average, which means I am using a quarter of all the memory available. And previously, I was using 100%. Literally, my average memory usage was between 90% and 100%. Not ideal at all. Now, to finalize this video, I am going to answer some of the questions that people asked me on Twitter. First of all, what about UI-only interactions? Some people claim that by using a server-first framework like LiveView, you're going to lose the ability to build rich user interfaces. Let me show you one example. First of all, loading states. Let's try searching for something. Elixir. Linux. Let's go to the feed page. There is a load more button below. Let me click load more. Besides loading states, let's go to the playlists. I do have drag and drop. How about this? Ta-da! How about this? Whoa! How about this? Wow, 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 wow. Whoa, 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 whoa. Look at this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Feels great. Let me put this on the 3rd place. I'm going to reload the page. And obviously, it persisted on the database. How did I do that? People love saying that server-first frameworks don't handle JavaScript well, but Phoenix does. We have an entire module dedicated to this. If you want to do simple UI interactions like adding a class, removing a class, doing a transition, a toggle, show or hide action, you can see this example here where you have an Elixir function that represents the hiding of a modal inside your front-end file. But if you need a more complex JavaScript interaction instead of a simple show and hide, you can use something called hooks. And now we have collocated hooks on Phoenix, meaning that inside your front-end component, you're going to add this script here with the type of collocated hook and then you can write whatever JavaScript code you want. So using the drag and drop example, on the assets folder, I have downloaded under the vendor folder the sortable.js library. I downloaded the minified version, and then on my root JavaScript file, I am importing sortable, adding it to the window, and then this is my playlist details page. I have a collocated hook here where I am using sortable that I downloaded. And this collocated hook is inside my render function, but it could be inside the component. That's why you have collocated in the name. You're not having a bunch of hooks files and then importing each one of them. You are using your JavaScript on the same place that you are defining your markup. Another question that I got on Twitter is, how about navigating between pages? Some people that don't know how LiveView works, they think that by default, whenever you navigate between pages, you're going to do a full page refresh. That's not the case. The goal of LiveView is to replicate React as much as possible. So let's open up the network tab. I'm going to reload the page and I clicked on socket here. We have one WebSocket connection established, and then whenever I navigate to another page, I am reusing this WebSocket connection to show new stuff on the front end. LiveView under the hood is constantly patching the page, sending updates and rendering new things under the same WebSocket. Now, the only exception to this rule is when you navigate between a public page and a private page. So for example, if I navigate to the dashboard or the settings, you can see I am doing a full page refresh. That's because I'm closing my unauthenticated WebSocket and then opening a new one. But now navigating between authenticated pages like settings and dashboard, I am reusing the same WebSocket. I am not establishing a new one. I can change tabs. And again, if I go to a public page, I do a full page refresh. That's the only caveat about this. But by default, I establish the connection once. You pay the price of loading the page entirely once, and all the subsequent navigations are instant. Third question that I got on Twitter. What about AI? Is AI good at writing LiveView code? Yes, it is. It is extremely strong writing LiveView code. And you know why? Because now LiveView ships with an agents.md file, and for simplicity purposes, I actually broke this file down into two files so I can save up a little bit on the context. But originally, this file has a ton of guidance over how to properly code Elixir, Phoenix, LiveView. So by default, the results are great. And the final question that I got is, look, I think Elixir is great, but I am gonna miss shadcn. And worry not, my friend, the latest version of Phoenix uses Daisy UI by default. And as an example, you have dark and light theme by default when you start an application. On CourseShelf, I actually removed the default light version of the website because I wanted to simplify the code. But by default, you get this for free. So that's it. The video is long enough. Please test this new version. Let me know how it feels. Do you feel like it's slow, sluggish, or do you feel like it's fast and feels good to navigate between pages? I took almost a month doing this migration. It was extremely tiresome, and I want to get any possible feedback over this new version. So let me know if you like this or not, and thank you for watching.